Hey, today we're checking out the Blackmagic G2 broadcast. So when this thing arrived, you were here. What were your first thoughts on it?
The first thing that stood out to me was all the I/O on it. There's multiple SDI in and out, dual XLR inputs, 2 CFast, 2 SD cards, an option for a viewfinder. No matter what situation I would want it in, I could kit it out for it.
So from an engineering perspective for broadcast and for a post-production perspective, when you're working with this in a studio or in natural light, it seems very flexible.
Yeah, so we ran it in our live weekend broadcast. We ran it in a studio, filming one of our pastors, and we even took it out just in broad daylight. And what was really helpful with that was the fact that it has the built-in ND filters, which is just a game changer when you want to shoot as wide open as possible.
So you talked about broadcast a little bit. We have a very cinematic style broadcast. So talk to me about the sensor size on this and how it interacts with lenses and what you could expect when you're using this camera.
Yeah, so we do a very cinematic broadcast, and that means that we use cameras with larger sensors, and we have shallow depth of field and a lot of movement in our shots and a lot of energy. And so this camera has a 2/3 inch sensor, so it's a little bit smaller than Super 35, but we actually saw some benefits of that where like there was not much noise in our image at all. We also saw we were able to get that shallow depth of field. No matter what your style is, whether you're in a more traditional broadcast environment or if you're in the cinematic broadcast, it can fit that.
So smaller sensor size, gets you that reach, good clean image, but it's good in both studio and a live production. So we've talked about I/O, we've talked about lenses, sensor, and the things that we've liked about the look so far. Where could you see this camera being used in the church?
Yeah, so I think it can be a good fit for a church who wants one camera that can do all around, that can do their weekend broadcast as well as their midweek post-production. It's a good all-around camera. It definitely leans more broadcast and has so many strengths in that, and it's very clear that's where where it was built to be first, but it also does not lack in the cinema realm or in post-production.
So this was really your first time with something like this. So when you powered on the camera, what were your first impressions about the usability on the software side?
Yeah, I feel it was very clearly laid out. With this, I feel like I could give it to someone if you've never touched a camera before and say, I need to shoot this at B-RAW in 6K with 3:1 compression, and they're gonna get it and have no problems at all.
Everything's just laid out where it needs to be. So for that church that just needs something kind of plug and play, do it all, but easy for, let's say, your senior pastor or your tech volunteer to use, would this camera be something that would fit that?
Absolutely. I think that it has a very small learning curve, and you can be shooting incredible content in no time at all. There were a couple areas that I think there could be some improvement with it. Like the screen on the side. It's very nice and it's a touch screen, but I found a situation where I was building a set all on my own, setting cameras, setting lighting, everything, and the screen didn't rotate all the way 360 for me to be able to see myself. So you'd have to use an external monitor in that situation. So it would be nice if it could fully articulate so that I could run a shoot all on my own.
So we had this in the studio, but we also put it in broadcast, and we found a few things where we're like, oh, you know what? That would have been good to have in a live environment. So tell me about a few of those things.
Yeah, so I think the biggest one for us was being able to change to PSF. So we have an older video system where we cannot run our cameras at the frame rate we want and be in progressive, so we have to run interlaced. So for our situation, we had to jump through a couple little hoops, but we still got it to work. So the addition of PSF would just be amazing.
All right, so this seems like a really solid camera that pretty much any church could use. So if you're needing a broadcast camera, you're in the market for one, check out Blackmagic.